Time for our catch-up with former Aston Villa, Manchester United and Chelsea goalkeeper Mark Bosnich. Good morning to you, Mark. There he is.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Ellie.
So good to see you. A real sign, was it, do you think, a real sign that Liverpool can compete with Manchester City and Arsenal for the title this weekend?
I think we've seen that really from the outset this season. I know there was that little bit of a slip-up against Nottingham Forest, but I think it really was underlined with that win away to Old Trafford. And you have to hand Arne Slot a lot of credit. Not an easy job at all to follow in the footsteps of such a legend for the club in Jurgen Klopp. He's done it very, very simply and in a way that sort of, I would say, endeared a lot of people towards him. And you could say yesterday was different in the fact that I don't think they were at their very best, but they'll recall last time with their only defeat of the season to Nottingham Forest. It was after an international break and before the Champions League. And I think if you look at it really closely, they probably played better against Forest, but they would have taken the result they had yesterday. Chelsea weren't too far off the pace. There's a lot more to come from them. They're getting better all the time. But in terms of Liverpool, no doubt whatsoever. They are title contenders. And so, like I said, so far as I'm concerned, since the start of the season and watching them, especially at Old Trafford, I've thought exactly the same.
He said it a lot of times, Mark, before the last international break. Yeah, we're top of the league, but respectfully, we've not played anyone yet massively. But given that they beat Chelsea yesterday, they go to Arsenal on Sunday, does that take the pressure off that game at the Emirates a little bit, that a point maybe not such a bad result for Liverpool on Sunday, given that they've already beaten Chelsea?
Yeah, that's a very good point. No pun intended, Rob, what you actually are saying. And I can understand it too. They've got a big month. RB Leipzig, who they play in the Champions League, are coming second, or equal first, if you like, in the Bundesliga, although they've lost their opening 2 Champions League games. That's away from home. That won't be easy. You mentioned Arsenal. Brighton are absolutely flying as well after Arsenal. And then obviously they've got Brighton again in the Cup, and then in the Champions League, they have a huge one after that in Bayer Leverkusen with Xabi Alonso coming back to Anfield. So it's a huge month or so for his team. In terms of the pressure, right now when things are going well for you, that type of pressure is a wonderful type of pressure. You feel as though that you're bulletproof, that you can take on anyone. And as the season goes on, and we saw this last season with Spurs when they had a new manager in Ange Postecoglou, and they started off so well. And then all of a sudden there was a few chinks that appeared and it sort of rolled on the other way a little bit. That will come in terms of if and when they are defeated, how they bounce back from that. That will tell us a very, very big story of how resilient they're going to be going throughout the season, because it's such a long season and there are so many games, extra games in the Champions League and that as well. And they'll be expecting to go deep into all the competitions, the domestic cup competitions as well as the Champions League.
Chelsea showing real signs of improvement. Is the goalkeeping situation still an area where it needs work, do you think?
I think it's one of those situations where it doesn't seem at the moment that sort of, obviously Robert Sanchez is the incumbent, but he doesn't seem to have taken that opportunity with both hands just yet. He needs a sort of David Raya moment like he had last season against Porto when he saved those penalties, and that really cemented his position, and to go on from that. So it's like I said to you, it's not, I would say, put in cement just yet. There's still a lot more to come. But if you have a look as well in terms of who they've got coming in behind, that's going to be an issue as well in terms of what Maresca is feeling about that situation. But right this moment in time, with a goalkeeper, possession is 9/10 of the law. Sanchez has got the opportunity, if he wants to make that position his own.
Let's head off to Molineux, shall we, Mark? The champions left it very late to beat Wolves with that John Stones winner. From a goalkeeper's perspective, when is someone interfering with you?
Right, well, this is something very similar that we had 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had it with Arsenal and their set plays. And the point that I made with those 2 players that used to run and basically have no chance of getting the ball and try to impede the goalkeeper. Now, they did it against, this is Arsenal I'm talking about, when they did it against Spurs as opposed to against Manchester City. The difference being Ederson came for the ball and, in my opinion, was impeded. Vicario did not. Now, I think in terms of Sarr, that falls into the latter. He did not come. If he had come, straight away. If you have a look at it right early, forget about the terms of the offside. I don't think he's offside. I think he gets himself out of the way once the header goes. But if you have a look at it very, very early on, he backs himself into Sarr. Now, Sarr stays on his line. So you can't really say he was impeding because he wasn't right there. Okay, so from there, from the header, different story. For me, after that, Sarr doesn't decide to come, but right there, he's got no chance of getting the ball. All he's doing is try to impede the goalkeeper. So I would say to the goalkeeper, you must come to get the ball. And if he impedes you, it should be a foul. But once he doesn't come for the ball, well, the referee can, and the assistant referee can say, well, he's not been impeded. He hasn't come for it. Once he doesn't come for it and he moves out the way, then for me, that's not offside. That doesn't impede him whatsoever.
The other point as well, when you're talking about VAR checks, particularly with this incident, Mark, is that slowing it down, it makes it look like Bernardo's cleared out the way ages before the header goes in, when actually, if in real time, it's that split second, whereas a goalkeeper, even the quickness of the movement, it must still be in your eye line a little bit.
It is, but and I understand exactly where you're coming from, Rob, as well, because you see that sometimes with tackles, late tackles as well. When you slow it right down, sometimes they can look worse than they actually were in terms of just being a fraction late rather than being malicious or done with excessive force. But I just think if we get down too much to sort of freeze framing little bits, you'll get down into a point where people will say, well, hang on a minute, how far are you going to actually go? My point has been, and it's the same, like I said, with Arsenal, with what they've been preparing for their corners, is that if you impede somebody, and you've got, especially the goalkeeper, if you impede somebody, not even basically looking at the corner, and they've come to try to get the ball and they can't because you've impeded them, that should be a foul. Straight away, it doesn't matter. But if the person, whether it be the goalkeeper or the defender, doesn't make an attempt to come and get the original cross, then basically all bets are off. And then after that, I can understand what you're saying too. He's like in your eye line, but your eye should be completely on the ball. But this is what I'm saying. My advice to any goalkeepers facing that would be, come to get the ball. Come, even if it's just to get a fist on it. Even sometimes you can't get a fist on it. You can put the opposition player off by actually coming, even just touching it with your hands. And then if you are impeded, which a lot of teams are trying to do now, then the referees should, with the help of VAR, automatically blow, or then after VAR, blow for a free kick.
Let's talk about Manchester United, because this pressure on Erik ten Hag, it's just constant, isn't it? But do you think that comeback against Brentford has eased some of that pressure?
That second 45 minutes was the best 45 minutes I've seen in a very, very long time. And as I say, going 1-0 down at home is always a difficult thing, especially when you're not having the best of times. But they showed wonderful character, resistance, and also I thought they played very, very well. They're starting to get the balance a little bit right in terms of the team selections as well. And slowly but surely, they still had a lot of new signings. People will say, "Oh, look, he's been there for so long." Yeah, that's completely understandable. But we've seen that with other managers in the past as well. But when you do make a lot of new signings and you're still searching for what is really your best team, it can be hard for players to adjust to each other, to their movements, where they go. And that can be what Rob was talking about before in another way, that little split-second difference between scoring a goal or not scoring a goal, or conceding or not conceding. But in that second half, I thought they played really well. They showed great resilience as well. And now really looking forward to, they got their game in Europe coming up this week. So really looking forward to them sort of putting a little bit of a run together and to build that confidence slowly but surely. I think they got West Ham next week. They got Fenerbahce during the week in the Europa League against their old manager, Jose Mourinho, and then their old Leicester. And those are games, all of those ones, no disrespect to the opponents, but those are games they really can stamp their authority on and then win. And then coming back to what you said, Rob, about Liverpool going to Arsenal after winning, if they do go on that little bit of a run and win those 3 games, then they've got Chelsea, which will be a sterner test, but they will put them in much better stead going into that, knowing they've had that unbeaten run.
You have spoken this morning about goalkeepers being proactive about taking command of their penalty area. I think we can put Emi Martínez in that bracket, can't we? Villa wouldn't swap him for anyone, would they? Even you in your prime.
I don't think so. I believe, and I've said this for quite some time, really, I would say since the 2022 World Cup, he is the best goalkeeper in the world, and he's continued to prove that. I know people say with penalties, and you do have to have a lot of luck, but he saves a lot more penalties than I would say than the vast majority of goalkeepers, and he's got a wonderful stature, and it's just part of his game, and that really, you could say, turned the game into Villa's favour. There's no doubt about that. And he's been absolutely exceptional. And you don't win anything or do well without having an exceptional goalkeeper. And that is what he is right now at this minute in time. I'm so happy for him as well. He more than deserves it. And let's hope that form continues for them and for Aston Villa, who have been absolutely outstanding once again. A fantastic win. 4 points off the top of the table. They got their, the European Champions League campaign has got off to a wonderful start. So things continue to look absolutely fantastic under Unai Emery, at Aston Villa.
It's just the only problem with Emmy Martinez, Mark, just a bit like you. I just wish she was less of a shrinking violet and had a little bit more self-confidence. Thank you very much, as ever. Have a great week.
Thank you very much, Robbie. You'd be surprised sometimes that the skies are deep shyness.
I don't believe it for a second. Good to see you.
I will.